Okay, we are recording now. Everything is good, and let's do it. Okay, so far we have a block, block like this, and we have a feature that's when user refresh the website, we still keep the user logged in, right? And uh, and in order to do that, we first of all we have to understand how the application know or how the application manage and user is logged in or not, and how the application know to give the user the permission to change the data. Example, like to create a blog post or to write some review. Um, so the question, the answer is the application is based on something called access token here. Right? Access token here is just a you can think about it's like a code. That's the front end, the React app here, can send to the server so that the server know who the user is. So inside the token here, there are some user information are encoded inside the access token here. And when the front end connect or interact with the server, it needs to send this access token to the server. And then the server will encode this token to get the user information and know who the user is. So when you refresh your application, everything will be restart. Even your state of your application will be restart at the initial state. So then the alert will be restart to empty. The auth authentication with the reducer will restart the state to empty user is authenticate false, right? So when you refresh the website here, the application will restart all of the state to initial states. And we will lose all of the blocks, and basically it just lock the user out, right? So, and the solution for that is we're going to keep the access token in local storage. So local storage is the storage on local of the browser is here. If you open the dev tool, open the application tabs, inside this local storage, you can find this is the local host 3000, which is our application. And the access token will be saved here. So inside this local storage, we can keep information even after refreshing. So nothing changed here. You can see when I refresh the website, nothing changed. So this local storage is from the Chrome browser, right? And this doesn't depend on the tab here. What kind of tab you are opening? It's just a persist here, right? So so the idea is after we always keep the access token in the local storage, and when the application restarts, we read the access token from the local storage. Right? And in the next move, because when we restart, the user information is gone, right? We have no user information here. We need to send a request to the server to get the user information back, and thus will be is implemented in the app.js here. So we call a use effect depend on dispatch to dispatch an action to get the current user information back. And the input of this function is the access token that we get from the local storage. So this code means whenever the app restarts, so you know that the use effect depend on something doesn't change here. Is similar to the component did mount life cycle of a component. So when the component application restart or did mount, it will trigger this code. And first of all, read the local access token from the local storage, and then dispatch a get current user actions from the auth actions with the argument is the access token. Right. So now let's take a look at the auth actions, get current user. So this is the function that's take access token. And this is a middleware managed by Redux Thumb. and in the first step, it will dispatch the get current user request. This action basically just turn the loading into true, right? The loading process into true, and then and then we are using the API here to send the request to the server, and the token should be added into the headers of the request, right? Header of the request on the name authorization here. So by a protocol, the token here should start with bearer here. Right? So we just add a bearer space in front of the access token. And then in the consoler here, when we send uh, the request to user me, you can click on this request and you can click on the headers here, and you can see authorization, bearer, and followed by the access token. So without this, the server cannot realize who you are, right? Who the user is. Right? So without this, the server will understand this is a request from no one, right? From no user. So the user doesn't log in, right? And it will, if you try to change the data from or send to create a block example, the server will respond login required, right? Because you haven't had this authorization in the headers of the request. So, and this is the line to add the bearer token into the headers of the request, right? And so we add it into the authorization in headers, and then this, and then call the API users me get method to get the user information, and after that we merge the response by the server into action payload, which will be merged into the user information of our reducer, our store. And one small thing here in the step 6, in the last step here, I need to refresh this. Step 6. Okay. A small thing here in step 6 is so when we log it in, after the login request is successful, right? After login request is successful, the server also responds the access token to us, right? And and then we need to add it into the headers of the API, and so this is the line we need to add here. So now, just after user logged in, we will set up the bearer token in the headers of the API. And after that, every time the API send a request to the server, it's already contained the authorization bearer tokens. So this is a little bit lazy because in some requests, like get block request, we don't need this one, right? It's a public API. Everyone can use it without logging in, right? But just to make sure that we don't forget to add the bearer token every time we need it, we just be lazy and add the token to authorization header every time user log in. Okay, so there are two places we add the token into the headers here. One is when user logged in, and second is when user refresh the website and we have to request the user information again. Right? So that's the two places where we set the authorization headers. Okay, so that is the step 6 from the previous time. Any questions so far? No? Cool. Okay, now let's move on to logout. So logout is the functionality of this this button on the navbar this link on the navbar. So now when I click on it, nothing happened because we haven't implemented that features. Right? So now let me open navbar. Where's our navbar? Navbar is here. We can see a to-do handle logout here, which is a function that's handle the on-click on the link logout. So when user click on this link, this function will handle the click event. So, okay, so because when we log out, we're going to change something in the store. Right? We want to delete the access token. We want to turn the is authenticated to false. We want to remove the user object and change the loading to false. Right? So whenever we want to modify the store, right? Whenever we want to modify the global store managed by the reducer, we need to think about let's create a new action for that. So the action here is logout. So we need to create a new constant inside the auth constant for logout, new constant. So this is basically just string, right? So that the reducer can differentiate the type of action. So and then in auth action, we need to create a new middleware for logout. Just this one, logout. And here, first of all, we will remove the authorization in the API headers. So we remove it. Right? And then we also remove or change the access token in the local storage to an empty string. Right? We remove the access token. If you don't do this, remember that if the local storage still store the access token, even if you lock it out, when user refresh the website, the app will read the access token in the local storage and try to get the user information again. Right? So we need to remove it. And then dispatch an action called logout. We don't connect to the server here. Basically, normally we should tell the server that the user is logging out, and the server can manage the login instruction of that user in the database. But here, just keep things simple. If you want to implement that, it will follow this pattern again, right? So, but here just keep things simple to just remove the access token and remove the authorization bearer token in the headers. Okay, so remember to add logout here, otherwise it won't work. So when you define something, example, let's see, when I define something and I haven't used it in the app, the color of the thing I define here is will be a little bit darker, right? So this is one sign that for us to know that okay, I should use this variable, right? Otherwise, it won't work. So when I add it into the export constant here, it's become lighter, right? So it's a good sign. Okay, in the last step, we have the action here, and we need to handle how should we change the state when that action is dispatched. So how should we change the state? We should case when the type is locked out, we need to return. Let's copy the state first, the current state, copy everything. Remove the access token in the state to null. Turn the is authenticated to false. Turn the user, you can use null here, or you can use an empty object. Right? So let's use null. And loading, let's turn it to false. Oops. Yes, so basically that is right. In the last step, after we set up after we set up the action and the reducer, we need to trigger that actions in the public nav bar, right? In the public nav bar here, at this moment here, we need to trigger dispatch, uh, the auth action dot logout, and this action doesn't need any parameters, so we just trigger it using auth action dot logout. And then here we need to import the use dispatch from React Redux and use this here, constant dispatch equal use dispatch. Okay, and now let's come to our application, click logout, check the local storage access token now is empty, check the state, the user is now no, access is no, is authenticated false, right? Everything seems like it's work well. Okay, click login again, my secret account, click, and welcome back me. So log out, log in again. Right. That's it for step 7, logout. Oh, I miscounted the steps here. So there are basically just 10 steps. Oh my God, it's too easy for you. Okay, so let me push the code, git add git commit -m, adding logout, and git push. Okay, so I will keep moving, and if you have question or you want me to slow down, just say on the chat, Discord, or just talk. Okay. So next step, we're going to implement a new page to show the block detail. So the idea is when user click on the block, we want to show, we want to lead them to a new page that show the detail of the block. So so let's create a new page in the containers, new folder, block detail page. And inside here, let's create index.js. And here we use RFACE tab, block detail page, to create a new page for our app. And here, just do a block detail. Save it to create a new page. Okay. So now we need to define a new route for this page, a new route. And the route has a format of blocks/ID, so that the React app will know this belongs to blocks, and the page is showing the detailed information about this block ID, right? About the block that's with this ID. Right? Okay, so to define that, we need to have a route ID here. Let's copy this one, and we should put it in the public layout here. Just put it here, and then use our trick to import the page, right, block page, save it. And so now let's come to our application here. Let's type in blocks/add. We are now in blocks detail. And why I put blocks add here, because one of you had an error in the weekend. That's block adds is not showing the add new blocks page. It shows the block detail page. And if you look at the code here, because like Bina said in the lecture, this ID could be anything. It could be number, it could be character, it could be letters, whatever, right? Then if you if you define the routes like this, it will understand that the at here is actually the ID of the block, right? So and then if you later on, if you define a new route, example, you define new route like this, the React will not understand this route. It will always try to execute this route when you type in blocks add, right? Yeah, because the ID here could be anything. So for the add a new blocks, actually we are following the principle. Then we remove the s here because add block is a action to create one single block. Right? We are not going to add a several blocks. Right? And the blocks ID here is show something from the list of blocks. So that is some trick to remember. When you add a new action, you think about is this single or plural, and you can follow that to keep you define the route here correctly, and not step on the other routes or no conflict with the other routes. Okay, we don't need this for now. Let's set the code here, and that is the route. Okay, and in the home page here, we need to create a function to trigger to handle the click events. So when people click on a block, right, we should lead them to the block ID routes, our new pages. So the step is summarized here. We need to create a function like this one, or let me copy also the import here. In the home page, let's come to the home page. Where is that? Here. So first of all, import use history so that we can use the history to push the route here and there. And then define a new function to handle click on block. And thus take in an ID and push the user to our new routes blocks followed by ID. And to handle this or to trigger this function, we need to pass this function to our block card. Right? Handle click is going to be handle click on block. We are passing a function to the children component, right? And then we come to the stateless block card component. Right? We destructure the handle click function here in the block card, and then we add it. So if I add it here, it will cover the whole card. So whenever people click on anywhere on the card, it will trigger this function. But some of you might not like it because some design you might have some feature on this card, so that you don't want the on click here event here cover the whole card. You might create a button here inside the card to handle this event. It's based on your design. Okay, so here we cannot. So here on click equals something here. We cannot do this. Right? Handle click and pass the function here. We cannot do this. Okay, so we need to pass the ID, the block ID of this function, because this one, this code will trigger this function right away after this component is rendered. We don't want that, so we use the callback. We trigger the handle click here as a callback function. So on click just return a function. Right? So and so with this syntax, this function will be triggered after everything is rendered and then user click on the card. This is quite important to remember. Yes, we are defining a function that's return the functions. Okay, let me come back to, So in the home page here, to use history here, just like this page, we need to define history equal use history here. Okay, that is something I need to add into this. I will add into this node. Okay, now home page, when I click on the block, it's lead me to block details. Home page again, click on another block details. Okay, so we have the so now inside this block page, right, inside this block page, uh, we handle the information here. Right? So all we have is the ID of the block. Right? We don't have any information about the block because when we trigger the event, we just lead user to another page, to another URL. We don't pass any information, and we also cannot pass any information about the blocks through the URL here, and we also shouldn't do that. So now the block detail page here, you can think about it as an independent page. It's just check the ID from the URL and then trigger a request to the server to get the information and then show the information here on this page. So it's work like independent to the other component. It just depend on the URL, on the ID of the URL that's leads to this page. So so now in this block page, we need to do the first step is we need to get the ID of the blocks from the URL using the use params, right? And then from that ID, we will trigger a action to request to the server the detailed information about that blocks, and then show it on the screen. Okay. Okay, so we need to define 3 actions for the request. The block request here, just to trigger loading to true block request success, will merge the new block into the store, and block request failure when something wrong happened. Okay. Always start with the constant first, right? Save it. In the block action, we have get single block, which is a middleware. It will trigger or dispatch get single block request first, and then connect to the API at this ID at this URL. And then if something happened correctly, we just dispatch block request success. Same pattern to the other actions. Okay, you can see here I'm copy this pattern a lot of time. Right? Most of the action here, instead of logout, we dispatch request, connect to API, and dispatch success. If something wrong happened, dispatch failure. And this single block took me a lot of time to refactor this block just to be like just to be clean. This is not something I figure out in a short time, right? I spent a lot of time just to think how to have a single action code, which is very clean, right? And I spent a lot of time to think about it. And then later on, I just like duplicate the step here many times with the, but I believe and also I know that it's already clean, right? So I feel pretty safe to follow the pattern here again and again. So programming is hard, but sometimes you will see that it's just copy and paste. But think about it, if you have to copy and paste many times, you should copy and paste from good code or clean code. Right? So let's spend a lot of time to think about the basic block and make it perfect. And then you can just either reuse this. Right. Okay, get single block, take an input, which is an ID of a block, and call the API to get the ID. And the payload here will be the response from the server. And remember to add this here to export these actions. Okay, so next we're going to move to block reducer here. So block reducer here, we have only the block request to get all of the blocks here. So we need to add our new type of action. So get single block request just to turn the loading into true. So it has the same effect with the block request. So we don't need to create a new cases for it. We just need to append a new cases here in this. So both action here, we have the same result to turn the loading into true. That's all. This one here is maybe different to this one because this one is to get all of the blocks, right? And this one to get one block only. So here we define. Okay, I'm copying the wrong code. Sorry. This should be this one. So we the payload here, remember, is from the server, response by the server. It will be saved in a new object called selected block. Okay, so let me define selected block here as an NT object. And then after get single block request success, it will merge the selected block, the data into the selected blocks. So when something wrong happened, because we handle the error using the alert component already, we will just turn the loading into false. So we add the get single block failure to the same action, to the same with the block request failure. Okay, and in the last step, we need to trigger this action in the UI, in the view. Right? So here, we will need to first of all get the params, from the URL using the use params here, and we also need to dispatch use dispatch. Use dispatch from React Redux. It should be parentheses here. And we also need the connect to the store. Right? The block is equal use selector. Use selector state to get the state block selected. So this is the information about the block that is clicked on. Okay, and when this page is rendered and after everything is did mount, we trigger a function that is dispatch block action dot get single block. I think I don't remember the name, and we haven't imported as well. Action. Okay. So let's make sure we have imported, and then VS Code can recommend the correct name for us. What's the name? Get single block is here, right? But, okay, get single block. And the input of the get single block is the IDs, ID of the blocks. And here this is depend on the dispatch, and we have to have a one if condition here. Params.id is available. If params.id is available, then we dispatch the action. Okay, and here is the block Let's show the block title here. Save it. Oops. Okay, we haven't import the types in the off actions. In the off action here. Oh, I see. I see. Sorry, guys. I put the get this function in the wrong in the off action. I should put it in the block action instead. It's my bad. My bad. Yeah, that's why VS Code doesn't recognize this function. Yes. Okay, use effect in the block page here. Use effect, use effect, use effect. It's not defined. Oh, I need to import use effect first. Cool. Okay, so here you can see trial 2 because I have clicked on the trial 2 here. Let's click right. Cool. Trial 1, trial 1. So it's work to show the single block. Lockout, show block detail. What else? Block detail. Oh, this is the UI, right? Okay, this is the UI of how it should look like. Cool. So let me copy this. Okay, so but the basic logic, we are done with the logic, right? The UI depends on your design. Back button in detail block. Go back button in detail block. Okay, it means, okay, got it. Let's do it first. So you want to have a go back button here in the detail block. So let me create a button back. And here in this button, we have a on click. We're going to add a new function to handle this, handle go back, handle go back click. Oops. Okay, and here we need to implement the function handle go back click the events. And here inside this function, the history has a function called go back. It will go back to the previous page that you, which is the home page. If I save it here, and I need to import history as well. Okay, constant history equal use history from the React route room. And then you have a back button here. Click on it, it will lead you to the home page. Click on this one, go back. That's it. I have an issue when user at page 4, when the click into detail, then go back, they got redirect to page 1. I'm not sure if the go back function could help. You have pagination, and it lead you to the page 1. Yeah, that's okay, but that's the question where you manage the page number. If you manage the page number in the Redux store, then the home page here always show that page number. Right? If you manage page number inside the home page, then every time it's reload, the page number will be 1. Right? So that's again why we should use the global store to manage the state of our whole application. Yeah, so in your case, Luck, I recommend to add to add a in the block reducer here, you might add page number here to maintain, to keep the current page number. And then the home page will listen to that. So instead of create a state in home page, you use selector to listen to that page number in the store. And that means whenever even you jump here and there in your application, the current page number is still stored in the global store. And when you come back to the home page, it will show you the current page. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, guys. Okay, this is some code for this is go back function. Okay. Should I keep it? I don't know, man. Okay, I need to import a lot of stuff here. First of all, the clip loader. Spinner. Loading is not defined. So the loading here, the loading here is depend on the loading from the global store. So we use selector, we get the state, and we get the state.block.loading. So the loading here is also listen to the loading in the global store. Block here is the selected block, and we need the movement. Where is that? So this one here. We need to import it. Import it, and also the markdown here. Also need to import markdown. Where is that? From React Markdown. We have installed it. Okay, review list is to show the list of review. It's a stateless component we need to implement, and the pattern of showing the review here is very similar to the GitHub issue. We have a list that we generate a bunch of components using the map, and then show it here and export it here. So this is something you can reuse in many different applications. Review list.js, and here I paste in the code to show the list of reviews. And here, let's do import review list. Is not yet. Review list from we jumped 2 steps back and jump to the component review list. Oh, so in the review list here, okay, we also need to import React, and that's it. Okay. Click on one. So you can see the content of the block and also the list of review here. Go back and cool. Yes. Okay, so that is the step showing the block detail. Git add everything, git commit-n, adding block detail, and git push. Okay, let's slow down for 10 minutes for Q&A before we move on. First question, can everyone implement to this point already? Can I get confirmation from 3 teams? Yes, yes. Cool. Team 3. One more team. Yes. Awesome. Do you have a lot of bugs? Any bug from this node? Please tell me. Please tell me if you have any problem. So one small thing here is we need to have the history equal use history here. Right? Uh, Let me fix this. Any questions so far, guys? It's in step 9. Okay, so let's move on. So in the next step here, we have adding review to a block, which is the feature when I click on a block, I want to add some review here to the block. Uh, and, uh, and that feature is only available for authenticated user. Uh, so the idea is from the documentation of our API, we can click on review, right, to create review for a block. So we get the URL. So we need to send information to blocks slash the ID here, which is the ID of the block, and slash reviews. Right? The field required is the content of the review. Right? So then we need to create some input here for the user can type in something and click send review or submit, and the app will send the information, the content of the review to this URL. To this URL. Okay. So let's prepare the action for that first. We start with the constants. So create review success, failure request, and then followed by a function to get a block ID and the content of the review and send it to the API like this. And so the same pattern again. And in the reducer, to create a review request, we create a new loading variable for that process. The idea is I want to show or to lock user to keep clicking on the submit button to keep sending the review, right? We don't want to duplicate the review, right? So we have a variable submit review loading here to control the process. And if we successful can change the review or add the reviews, we will merge the reviews into the selected blocks. So payload here is the response from the server, right? And the server, after it successfully create a review, it will respond that to us based on the API here. So in this API, after create a review successful, it will send that information about that review back to us. Right? And we need to add it into our list of reviews. Right? So here, and the list of reviews is an array inside selected block. Uh, so so in order to add the new review into list of review inside selected blocks, we have to first of all copy everything inside selected blocks and override reviews with something new. And to add something new into the reviews, we need to copy everything inside reviews and then add payload, this one, which is the new review into list of reviews. Yeah. So this is something you might need to notice when you want to merge data to a nested object. So we have reviews here is a list inside selected block. We have a nested array inside the object selected blocks here. So keep in mind that you need to copy everything before you add or override something. Good. And in the end, we will add uh, the review block here, which is a form to submit the review and combine with the is authenticated uh, variable. This one is listen to the global store is authenticated and only show to the authenticated user the form to submit review. That's the idea. And in the form to submit review, this is a component, stateless component. And if you realize, I just reuse the code in the GitHub issue search component. We have I change search into review, I keep the input, and I keep everything else. I change the search into submit. That's all. Because this is a stateless component in the GitHub issue project, I just copy it here and reuse it without thinking too much because it's stateless. Okay, Zoom, you have a new solution to create review. When we post a new review to the API, the response return is just the review we just post, yes. Then we have to modify the block state with just that review. Is this hard because the review is nested deeply in the inside block? Yes, so that's why we need to do this to add the new reviews. Another solution might be to create a reviews here outside the state. Right? You might create reviews here, but then we have some duplication because in selected block we also have a list of reviews, and this makes our store bigger, contain like duplication of information. Okay, so let's implement this feature. I will copy this one into block constant. Create a new function in the block action. Let's be careful this one. Block actions, right? To create a new review and add this one in the export here. And then in the reducer, block reducer, let me make it smaller. This one, we're going to add those cases down here. Create reviews, request, success, and failure. And then in the block detail page, this one, we want to have the submit review loading from the store. Review loading is going to be use selector. We select this from the block dot submit review. Oops, submit review loading. Okay, and because we have a form right, to submit review, we need to control the input of that form. The review text here is the content of the review, and we will handle the change of that form using handle input change. And we need to handle the submit event of the form using the handle submit review. We prevent the default and then send a new actions block to create the review with the content and the block ID. Okay, last one here, we need to create the path of the form to create a new review here. And we pass the handle input change and handle submit review into that component. And inside the components here, let's create a new stateless component, review block.js. And here, okay, this time I prepare the import already. It's here. So this is exactly the search form in the GitHub issue. I hope you all understand already. Okay, we still need to import something in the block here to use state for the review text. Is authenticated is not defined. Is so authenticated is a variable. The data is in the state state.auth is authenticated. Review block is not defined because we haven't imported. Review block OG import. Yes. Submit review loading is not defined. Maybe I misspelled it. Submit review. Yes, I misspelled it. Boom. Okay, so we have a review here to type something and hit submit. It shows here. It's add into the previous review. And React is smart enough to not re-render those things here. You can see the effect is just like this one pop up, right? Because React manage the view with a virtual DOM, so it will only render the when it needed. Right? So that's why it's so fast. And we have the effect that is append a new review here. But behind the scene, we know that there are a lot of stuff running behind. So when you change something here, it will trigger handle input change and store everything you put in here into review text, right? Based on this function that we pass to the review block. And when you click on submit, it will trigger this function, right? And then dispatch a new action to create the review, and this action will connect to the to the API, and also dispatch three types of action: right? Request, success, and failure. And after successful create the review, um, it will reset the review text here into an empty string so that people cannot submit the same review again. And also the content of the blocks, right? The content of the block, which is the selected block here, is changed based on the because of the reducer. We change the content of the selected blocks, and we add a new reviews into the array reviews inside selected block, right? And this variable is listening to the selected block, and it will get updated, right? After the function success, after the action success is dispatched, and then the React will automatically re-render this review list for us. So yeah, just a very simple feature, and the effect is quite like looks simple, but a lot of things is running behind, right? Okay, any questions so far? Am I too fast or too slow? I don't think I'm too slow, but am I too fast? I hope everyone is still here. Okay. Okay, so let me move on to the last step here. It's actually step 10, not 11. So in this step, okay, one more small thing to create a review, to create a new review, uh, to create a new review to a block here, it's require the bearer token. It's required bearer token here. And you haven't seen me implement the bearer token, right? Because when if you look at the request here to create reviews, right? Click on the request, you can click on the headers and you already see the authorization is already here. Right? And this happened because we added right away after user login. So and then we just don't need to take care about it. But if you don't have this, you will have an error about user need to log in. Okay, let's move on to the step 11. 11 here is to create, edit, and delete a block, a new block. So, okay, and here we start with define prepare the action for three kind of uh, request. Uh, the action for the three kind of to create, edit, and delete block features. Okay, there are something special with the create new block here. Create new block, create new block. The API requires to submit the data as a form data, not as a JSON like usual. It's also prepared for the image upload later on, but in this function to create a new block, uh, we have something different than the other function. We have to create a form data to store the title, the content before we submit it to the API. So the API require the type of the data sent to it to create a new block as a form data. Right? To update the data is still the same like usual, or to delete the data, nothing changed here. And okay, for the reducer, it stays the same, nothing special. We create a button in the home page. Whenever people click on it, it will link to block ad. Okay, we also need to define some route for that. Yeah, we need to define a route, and this route is a private route. Only authenticated user can go to this route. So we wrap the route in a private route component and add to the public layout. So we have one route for add, one route for edit, and inside edit here we also have the delete features. And notice that here I'm using one component for both add and edit and also delete. It's a bit lazy because but it's not, it's also common to implement add edit like this, to have only one page to handle both action, add or edit, because the layout of the page from adding a new block or editing a new block usually are the same. We have a form that can input the we can have a form to input the title, or also we can use this form to edit the title of the block. Right? Similar to that, a form to edit the content, and also it can be used to add new content. Right? Yeah, so that's why I put everything in one component only, called add edit block page. And okay, so let's do it. But let me commit this code first. So this one is called adding review to a block feature, git push. So when you clone the repo, you can see git log, and you can see the step that I commit the code here. And using the git different, you can see how the implementation step by step look like. But it's also already here in this note. Okay, so let's start with the constants. Copy to the block constants. In the block action, three function for the add, edit, and delete. And here we need to add it's called create block. What does this called? Create new block. Okay, update block. Create new block, update block, and delete block. Create new block, update block, and delete block. Add it to the block actions. We have something wrong here. Alert action is not defined. Okay, we need to define this. Import it. Okay, and add it here. Okay, in the block reducer, block reducer. Okay, in block reducer, for the create, update, and delete block, we just turn the loading into true. Right? This one here, nothing changed. Just add it into the get single block request. Okay, so the other is the same. So I just like replace this block reducer with this block reducer. Save us some time. Okay, in the home page, let's add a button on the home page for authenticated user only. Thus can jump to the add block add URL. So let's copy this one to here. So if user is authenticated, then we add a button that's linked to block add. And block add or block edit is defined in the public layout here. So before that, let me create a page for that so that we can import it into here. Container, new folder, let's call it add, edit, block page. Inside here, let's create index.js. And here, rface, too fast. Oops. rface tab, add, edit, block page, save it, h1. Just put an h1 in title here. Okay, so now let's come to public layout here. We're going to add the two private route here. So we need to import private route. Did we? And we also need to import the page here. Okay, it doesn't let me to auto import it, so I need to type it by myself. Private route from is from the where's that container slash route slash private route. I have some mistake here in the, oh, this should be equal. Okay, I missed one equals. Okay, fix it. Okay, now come to this page. So I prepare everything here for you, but let me explain it. So here in this component, we'll handle both add or edit, and and there are two URL, two routes that's will be taken care by this component, and we use something called add or edit here to control or to know whether we are adding a new block or editing a new block. And the condition is, can we get the params ID from the URL? And the param ID is the one that differentiates the two URL here. So this one, adding a new block doesn't need an ID, but editing a new block we can get the ID from it. So if we can get an ID from the URL, that means we are editing a new block. If we cannot get the ID, then we are adding a new block. So this variable is controlled whether it's an add a new block or edit a new block. So if we are editing a new blocks, we use the selected block to control what kind of block we are editing, right? And um, yeah, that's it. And depends on the add or edit, we dispatch create a new block or we dispatch update blocks. Two kind of function, two kind of action depend on the this variable. And notice that this variable is not a state. It's not a state of the page. Usually, when you want to have something to control your page, you think about use state. But this variable doesn't change. This variable only set up at the beginning of the component, and it doesn't change when user are in the page, using interact with the page. So we don't need a state for this variable because it's something fixed, right? It's something this doesn't change. Okay, so the title also depend on add or edit, and or the button here is the delete block is only available if we are editing a new block. And yeah, so the data inside the input, which is the title or content, is controlled by the form data here. And if we have an edit page, we will fulfill the data from the selected block into the form data. Otherwise, the form data we have empty input here, so that user can input something into it. Okay, we need to fix something here. In the home page, this one is not defined. So let's link it to the store. Is authenticate. Homepage link is not defined, so we also need to import link. This one. Let's use the trick how to import. Button is not defined also. Button from React Bootstrap here. Okay, cool. Now let's test this. We have a button here. Click on the button. We have add block. Right. Cancel. Click on one block. Oh, this. Okay. This is the add block. Right. We missed one more step. It's an edit button inside the block detail page. So when user click on a page on a block detail that is written by him, he can edit the block. So to implement that, we come to the block detail. Where's the block detail here? And we should add, okay, so first of all, here is the first time we are using the current user information. The current user information is linked to the auth.user in the store. And the condition to show the button is when the current user information is equal to the block.user ID. So the ID of the current user is the same as the ID of the owner of the block, right? block.user.id. Then we show the button to allow user to edit that block. Right? Otherwise, we just show who's wrote this block as usual. Where's that? Here, right? So we will replace this band with one condition to check whether user ID is the same as owner ID of this block. Import link, and let's check it out. Click on this one. Okay, let's test the add block first. My first block, 23, submit. New block is created. My first block, click on it. Now I can see the button edit here. I might duplicate the title here, right? Or the block title is here. The block content is here. So let me check the state. Why I have two titles here? State, block, selected block. 48, this one. And we are duplicating the title, right? Yeah, let's remove this. Yes. Thank you. Look. So one title, the edit button, and 1, 2, 3 here. Right. So we have successfully created a block. Click on edit. So now you can see edit block, but basically we are on the add edit block component, and it's based on the URL here to change the content. And inside the content, we have the same, like we are on the same add edit block page, but we are now editing a new block, a block. Right? So we fulfill the title and the content with the information in the selected block, which is my first block, 1, 2, 3 here. Let me change it to 4, 5, 6. Submit. The block has been updated, right? So let me cancel to come back here. I can see 4, 5, 6 is updated. So the edit features works. Right? Last is the delete block here. Click on that. The block has been deleted, and now I cannot find my first block here anymore. Okay. Yeah, and that is for the weekly project. But there are still a lot of things you can implement based on. So those are just some basic functionality of the social block, right? We can still do a lot of things here, right? And okay, I forgot something to tell you. Okay. Click on right now. Oops. Okay, we have a bug here. So when I click on right now, it's just stay here, right? Why is that? Anyone get that issue? Get this issue? Click on right now doesn't lead me to the. Okay, let me check it. Okay. Sorry, guys. So Yeah, this is something I want to tell you. Um, so in the code here, I have something called redirect to. Uh, so let me remove it for now. Let me remove it. Okay. Right now, okay, so now I'm in the add block. I'm in add block. Uh, so now if I create a new block, click submit. Uh, so I'm in the add block page. I'm still in the add block page. What I want is after I can successfully create a new block, I want to come back to the home page. How can I do it? Anyone try this feature or anyone has the problem here? Okay, so the idea is after we successfully created uh, let me explain this feature first. It's quite important. So if we successfully create a new block, we want to lead user to the home page. But the thing is, we cannot use the use history here in these actions because use history is a React hook, and we can only use this in the React component. And to redirect user to the home page is a little bit tricky. We're going to modify the block reducer. And in the block reducer, create review successfully, we're going to add redirect here to, sorry, this is a create review, not create new block. So to create new block success here, let me bring it down here and return not only loading is false, but also redirect to home page. Redirect to home page after create block success. And then here in the add edit block, I'm listening to the redirect to. Okay, I call it redirect to. Okay, so after creating a new block success, we redirect user to the home page. And in the add edit block here, we listen to that redirect to, and if we have any value of the redirect to, we will lead user to the home page. Okay, let's click right now. My first block 1, 2, 3, submit. And after successful create a new block, we are now in the home page. Okay, time for Q&A. The image upload function. Okay, so you want the image upload function. I will view it and add it to the node here. Okay. So let me work on the image upload function in the lunch, and I will add the node for the image upload function here in this node, so that everyone can review it. So yeah, I prefer documentation like this rather than lecture recording, because this is faster. We can click on the step here to see step by step. Okay, but any question about the code so far? So let me stop the recording here to keep it short, and we move to Q&A before lunch break.